folks, and welcome to Typology, the show in which we explore the story of you through the lens of the Enneagram. My name is Anthony Skinner, producer of the show, and we are thrilled to have you here with us today on this Valentine's week. I hope you had a great Valentine's Day wherever you are. Hey, our guest today is Melissa Hobley, Global Chief Marketing Officer of OkCupid, and we are talking relationships today. Melissa is a 2 through and through with a 3 wing. And as I said, Ian and Melissa talk relationships today, and Ian really goes into some depth on what different Enneagram types need in terms of communication, what they're looking for. So this is a really interesting conversation. Hey, before I get to our guest and our host, I want to remind you, Ian's brand new book, The Story of You, is out right now and available. It's such a good read and a really interesting take on the Enneagram. I know you're going to enjoy that book. Be sure and grab it. It's available anywhere fine books are sold. The audiobook is available as well, read by Ian himself. Hey, that's it for me, Anthony Skinner. Again, I hope you had a great week. Lots of love from us here at the Typology family. And now, without any further ado, here is the host of our show, Ian Crum.
Melissa Hobley, Global Chief Marketing Officer of OkCupid, Enneagram 2 with a 3 wing. Welcome to Typology.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to just begin, because I've been married for 33 years, and so I am well beyond the dating app season of my life. Everybody's got to know about what OkCupid is. Let's start there.
Sure. So OkCupid is one of the biggest dating apps in the world. We're also one of the OG dating apps. So we've been doing this almost 20 years. We're very good at helping you find your person, whether you are in Paris or Berlin or Detroit or Nashville or LA or New York or wherever you are.
That's fantastic. And what differentiates it from, all the other dating apps which are out there?
Yeah. So OkCupid, and it's a good, it's a reason why I'm here talking to you guys today. On OkCupid, we're famous for OkCupid questions. You have to answer at least 15 to set up your profile. We have over 3,000, and we're always adding questions, taking them away. And the questions might ask you if you're passionate about travel and how you want your partner or potential matches to answer that. And that's how we use the algorithm to determine who to show to you. But it's a place where if you are high intent, we say, if you're looking to go on the date, if you're looking for your person, if you're looking for real love, we are really, really good at that because we slow you down. We ask you these questions. We tell you how important is that powers the algorithm. We think we have the best algorithm in the world because we've been doing this for so long. We're very affirmative. If you are LGBTQ, if you are young, old, Orthodox, atheist, whatever you are, we want you to feel great about that. And we want to bring that to the experience. And then we're going to match you on it. And we are also the only app in the world that will match you on social and political issues that you care about. So if you're passionate about the environment, for example, you probably are not a good fit with somebody that does not believe climate change is real. Mm-hmm. And we're the only place that wants to ask you those questions. And you can skip them, and every question is optional. And but then we'll match you on that. If you're passionate about criminal justice reform, we're the only app in the world that will capture that cares to ask, and then we'll use that to help us figure out who to show to you. It doesn't really matter. In a lot of dating apps, you'll see like a neighborhood or somebody's like eye color, and that doesn't tell me a whole lot about compatibility. That does not tell me if we're going to go have a coffee or a glass of wine and then have this great conversation and then want to make out or then want to keep dating or meet the family. But knowing how people feel about important issues of our day, that does tell you a lot about it. So
not to mention it saves you time.
It saves you time. And like dating is hard. Dating is really hard. And I'm from the Midwest, but I've been in New York City a long time. I was single in New York City a long time. it's really hard. And it's hard if you're a single mom, and it's hard if you're a widow, and it's hard if you're 22. It's really hard. And I talk to daters every day who they don't feel enough. They don't feel tall enough, skinny enough, pretty enough, successful enough, attractive, whatever it is, well-read, educated. And we try to create an experience that says, you are enough. Exactly what you are is enough. And you're a great fit for someone. And we're free. And so you have no excuse.
Hey, listen, I'm jumping on. I just downloaded it.
But it's a great way. It's why I'm talking to you guys today. Is I think we tend to attract people that are very curious about what is a good fit for me. Why am I drawn to certain people? What can I have this little space on a phone, on a profile, to say who I am or what I'm looking for, and that's so hard to do. I work in this space and it's hard to do. And I get wedding invitations every week around the world. So I see this, but I think dating apps do play a great role in helping you find somebody. And we're really proud of doing a good job at that at OkCupid all over the world.
Great. Oh, I'm so excited. So we have so much we have to talk about.
Yeah.
So much to talk about. I want to start here though. The Enneagram. How did you learn about it? And how did you learn that you were an Enneagram 2 with a 3-way?
So this is a great story. COVID was a really tough time if you were single, right? You were maybe not seeing family. You were, you may have felt a little isolated and lonely. OkCupid had this surge of activity, and I'm married with 2 children, but I am on 27 apps around the world right now because I need to know what that experience is like. And I've certainly spent a lot of time on OkCupid. And I was swiping through profiles, and I was looking at profiles, men, women, straight, gay, queer. And I kept seeing things like 7W1, 2W4. And then I would see Enneagram, but it was like often a little mysterious, like drop me your Enneagram or guess my Enneagram, or, 7W2. And so I Googled it, and that was what brought, and I kind of fell into the rabbit's hole. And then I'm relatively new to this world, but I learned about it from my daters who were using it to signal what they were. They were using it as like, hey, if you're in on this, like, send me a message. And then I asked a few daters about it, and they said it's so interesting because it's immediately like, it'd be like if someone showed up at a coffee shop or a bar wearing the t-shirt of the band that maybe not everybody knows, not Rolling Stone, but like the more obscure band, right? And immediately gave them a shorthand and an icebreaker and a thing to talk about. And so, I found about this because people are connecting on it. They're talking about it more and more on their OkCupid profiles. And so that took me down the rabbit's hole. And that's how I started to find out. So I've now done mine. I made my husband do it. I've started to make my team at OkCupid. We're based in New York City. I've started to make them do it.
Fun.
And it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. And so many applications in your universe that we need to talk about.
So many. I think that you see more discussion and knowledge. I mean, I can't speak for what's going on in the other dating apps, but I think we're seeing it more on OkCupid because we tend to attract people that are very curious and introspective. And so they've known their Enneagram for a while. Maybe they read your book, they listen to this podcast. They are using those types to understand, well, what are my blind spots in a relationship? What are my blind spots at work? What are my, who would I work well with? These are the kinds of things I start to think about. And when you're in the business of helping people find other people and you're in the business of relationship building, you're always trying to think of, how do I make it easier for these two people to talk? How do I make you think about, here's one thing that happens on dating apps. Women say no to, for our straight couples, women say no to everything and guys say yes to everything. And so women always think, by the way, that guys are like harsh, but they're not. Women are like, they have a list. They want all these things. They want 6'2" and no. And you're like, you gotta relax a little bit. And so we become interested in, and I've become interested in this space and more people at OkCupid because it's another way to help people think about, what am I? How do I interact? What's a good balance for me? How, you guys have had really interesting conversations about relationships on this show and with couples directly. And so, the applications are really endless.
They are. And I won't rehearse everything I could say right now because sometimes our people have heard me say it, but just because it's new for you, I'm going to say a couple of things, right? First of all, what the Enneagram offers to people in relationships or seeking relationships, right, is number one, like what we were saying earlier, it saves you time. If you're a 2 on the Enneagram and you meet a guy who is a 5, right? Well, as a 2, you are ebullient, you're effusive, you're a very feeling-based person. You process the world through your heart rather than through your head or your gut. And more, because you also do obviously process the world through your brain and your gut. But this is where you're dominant, right? You are very outgoing as a 2. Usually 2s are extroverted, cheerful, and also incredibly emotionally connected. So when you came on this program, I guarantee you're unconsciously looking at Anthony and I, and you are immediately reading feelings. You are reading emotional cues on my face. You're seeing when I'm smiling. You're seeing if I frown. You know what I mean? And then you're kind of, you're trying to figure out, how do I communicate? And it's very, very fast. You're almost psychic around feelings. And actually being able to detect the needs of others and knowing immediately how to meet the needs of the other. Right?
Wow.
And so
wild. It's like talking to a psychic. Right.
And so, wild. And that's, I could write 200 pages on a 2 or a 5 or a 7, right? So the 5, on the other hand, which is called the investigator, sometimes the observer, they're the most emotionally detached number on the Enneagram, the most analytical number on the Enneagram, typically introverted. A person who loves to collect wild amounts of information and knowledge oftentimes about niche subjects. They don't like small talk typically. You love to arrive at a party first and leave last, usually helping with the dishes on your way out the door. Whereas the 5 wants to arrive maybe on the later side and definitely leave on the early side. Right? You can talk to anybody, and a 5 can be a little socially awkward. And anyway, so that's a lot of really fast information. As a 2, if you know that you're going out with a 5, that none of that stuff is personal. You just have so much immediate information. It's crazy.
And imagine if daters were armed with a little bit of that information.
Oh my gosh. It's I could easily write a 1-page description of each of the types, and a person who knows they're a 2, on the Enneagram could read about the 5. And that wouldn't mean to say that, I'm going to disqualify that person. I'm not going to go out with them. It would just mean, this looks like an interesting person. And here's a low resolution picture of what the interior world of that person is like.
And why they're the way they are. That's
right. Yeah. And why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
And the way that it's communicated, at least in our work, is it's not academic. It's fun information. It's accessible. It's actionable. It's all that stuff. And so, if a 2 knows that about a 5, when the 5 takes longer to talk about their feelings, the 2 doesn't think, oh, this person's sort of emotionally, No, you process feelings immediately. It takes a 5, 3 days to process what you process in 3 minutes.
Right.
Yes.
And it helps you develop empathy because it's all about, what's motivating the person, instead of just the behavior.
Yeah. So much we can talk about. Okay, so
what is your husband's number, by the way?
Yes, let's know that.
He's an 8 wing 7.
I knew he was going to be an 8.
Did you know that?
Yeah, well, 2s and 8s often find each other, right?
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I don't know what the dynamic is there because there's 3 different types of 8s. But I would say that 8s sometimes, not always, but it's sort of a thing sometimes, is that the 8 will outsource the feelings to the 2.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh my God, 1,000%. Yes.
Yeah, and they also rely on the 2's naturally warm and comfort. You have what I call the wide circle of concern. People feel so safe with you. They gladly tell you even intimate details of their life early in the conversation with you that they never would with an 8, because the 8 doesn't radiate that kind of safety, right? And so the 8, and you sometimes rely on that 8 to give you the courage to set boundaries.
1,000%. Yes.
And how to say no.
And how to say no. Yes.
Right.
Because otherwise, as a 2, I won't be careful with my time. I'll feel drained. I'll get so emotionally involved as a 2 that the 8 kind of, okay,
yes.
Well, here's the plan. We're going to set some boundaries here. Yeah.
So important that. And then the other thing I'm just going to say about the Enneagram and partnerships, that's really important. If 2 people know their Enneagram number, they immediately have a vernacular and a vocabulary to have a conversation about how they see the world and move through it. It's awesome. It's so fast.
It's amazing. And what we've started, that's what we're starting to hear from daters too, is the ones that are aware of their Enneagram and have this interest in that. As I said, it's a shorthand. It's like okay, I know what I'm dealing with. Because what happens in dating too is people take things really personally, and it's okay. Putting yourself out there is difficult, and you're vulnerable, and you're scared to be rejected. And especially if you're a dater with kids, or you're a widow, or you're not 22, there's more at stake, and you have less time to put out there, right? If you're a nurse and a single mom, you're lucky if you have one night out a week to go on a date or to be, messaging or swiping on OkCupid or whatever app you're on. And what we're starting to see is as Enneagrams, become more and more popular, is it's helping people first just talk, because of the dating app. We just need you to talk, and connect. And so it's giving them that nudge to do that, or oh, this is common ground. I'm into this too. And then it's giving that, as you said, they have a shorthand, they have a language to chat, to get to know each other. And Anthony, as you were saying, there's this empathy, there's an understanding, there's it's not so self-centric, which is what dating usually is, oh my God, he didn't text me back. That means he must not be into me because I'm not this, is what goes through a lot of our daters' minds, where if they're informed or armed with this world, it's tremendously helpful. And at the end, at the very least, saves some time and heartache.
So I'll say this too, just to clarify, as accurate as what Ian just said was, it's still a flyover.
I just gave a flyover.
I mean, it can get it's endless where you can go with it. It's just gets even more so connected.
So it's interesting, we could go through each of the types. You could actually interview me if you wanted to and say, okay, what's this type like in relationships or this type? But I want to know, do you see one number appear? Because I could guess this actually, probably. What numbers are you seeing over and over again more than any other numbers? Do you know what they are?
You know what? Hang on. I'm checking. We pulled some data on this because we're also famous for having really interesting insights. While I look it up, do you want to guess?
No. I think you would have lots of different ones. But
yeah, I don't know that we have. I don't know if we have it pulled, but I may actually fire off an email to my data scientist to say, can you pull this for me in the next 10 minutes?
It would be so fascinating. I think that one of the ways it could help people, and again, I would caution people against saying, don't turn down a date on the basis of an Enneagram type.
Right.
Use it as a data point in the decision, right? But it's not the determinant, right? At the same time, a person could say, man, I haven't had much success with 5s or 7s or 9s in the past. And so I'm going to use that as a data point. It doesn't mean this isn't a great person, because if it's a highly self-aware 5 or 7 or 9, anybody could be great. But right, if they're a healthy, self-aware, and they've done some work on themselves, whatever. But I know for me, and I've never discussed it, but there are certain types on the Enneagram that I historically have had more trouble with than others in relationships, particularly and I don't get along with any Enneagram number that's unhealthy. You know what I mean? It's like, or I got to burn more calories to be in relationship.
And
with
what
them.
you're up against or in for too.
I know what I'm in for if they're not very healthy, right?
Yeah.
For example, we have the improver, Enneagram 1. They used to be called the perfectionists. And so these are people who see a world in which that rewards good people and punishes bad people. The strategy they have for winning love and a sense of mastery in the world is to perfect themselves, others, and the environment. Now, if that number is healthy, they're beautiful. When they're in the average to kind of not doing great space, they tend to be perfectionists who can be judgmental, critical, tend to see the world. Their way of seeing the world is the only way to see the world. They're black and white thinkers, either or. You see where I'm going?
Yeah.
And so
totally.
There are certain numbers on the Enneagram that would be like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And other numbers would be attracted to it.
Interesting. Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's so much you and I could talk about. Okay. So do you have some tips for people who are dating in this weird COVID world?
Yeah. And by the way, I did just look. There's been a 35% increase in just 6 months of people posting their Enneagram on OkCupid.
I'm so fascinated.
That's a big number in a dating app world where you have millions of daters around the world. That's substantial. So
you said 33% in the last 6 months?
35% in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good
that's
Lord.
US. But yeah.
So that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Let me not ask you that question yet. Let me ask you a different question, because I want to circle in on you a little bit. Can I circle in on you? People often say that I kind of go to that. But anyway.
I love it.
All right. So I would say that in your role as a chief marketing officer, and I could name other careers or other positions for each type, but you are the perfect type for that job. Ooh. Like, 2s tend, first of all, if they're the forward face of the company, nobody can beat them. Nobody. 2s, 3s, and 4s are the most image conscious numbers on the Enneagram, which can be a good thing or not a good thing. However, in a position, it's a great thing because nobody can project an image of the corporation or of the organization better than a 2. They have so much like energy around the mission, and they are great at recruiting other people, like the best talent there is, because on the basis of your self-presentation and you sell the company like nobody's business. Like everyone's like, I got to join. Like that is I want to be like around Melissa. If Miss, you know what I mean? Like you are brilliant at it. Now,
I'm just going to record this portion for my review with my CEO next week. So, or if you want to just join that Zoom, it would be great.
By the way, most of my work is corporate. That's the vast majority of my work is 98% corporate. And I could actually tell your CEO how to do a 360 on a 2 versus an 8, a 5, or a 7 so that it's effective and that it actually generates the result that they want. Because that's
amazing.
Oh yeah, it's really handy. Really a useful tool.
Yes. You're coming to New York.
Okay, bring it. So anyway, what I was going to say was 2s also are brilliant in marketing because they read the world, and you're in a heart business, and you read the world through the lens of feelings, and you pick up on what does the market want? What does it need? Better than, just brilliantly, right? And you're able to find language that is sticky, right? That really grabs people and meets the felt need like that. You pick up on felt need like boom. And then, you're clearly a very bright person. And then you go, and this is how we address that need in a winsome and interesting, but also effective way. And then you've got data science people, and so they're going to help you make sure that heart information has some validity, behind the firewall, right?
Behind the firewall, behind the fireworks, and
yes.
and I also in exploring the 2, we're positive, we're optimistic, and in marketing you have to be that because you are trying to get people excited and engaged, and dating apps it's a really competitive space now. And so you have to believe, and you have, versus all of my engineers and product people are really critical thinkers that are building very complex technical systems to be able to match, all these people. And so, I have to believe in the positives, and I have to believe that we're, the marketing is going to work. We're going to get people to talk about it and come here and believe that this is a place where they'll meet someone great that they're really compatible with, and they'll just make them feel good and feel loved. And so, but that's really interesting. And I will need you to help me get a raise.
I can. But I would also tell someone that's working with you, it's like, well, how do I incentivize? How do I incentivize Melissa? And I'd say words of appreciation are just enormous. Like you cannot tell Melissa enough how much you value what she does, how she does it. Like the best drug for a 2 is to hear the words, I don't know what we would do without you.
That is so insanely correct. And when I was reading about the 2, and it was, that we need to feel appreciated and we need some of that acknowledgement. I'm like, oh yeah, that's spot on. More than my salary, more than, other
things. You don't have to say that out loud.
So,
yeah.
But Melissa, but check this out.
If
you were a 3, I'd say if you want to incentivize a 3, then, sort of hold up a promotion, a new title, a financial incentive, make sure that they have the ability to have a way to quantify success, right? You are the most interpersonal number on the Enneagram. Like you go to bed thinking relationship, you get up thinking about relationships. That is what you do. I mean, this is like the perfect job. She runs a ding dang OkCupid.
I am in the relationship business.
She's in the relationship business.
Yeah.
She's the most interpersonal number on the Enneagram. Could this get any better?
No.
Oh my god.
And you're in the heart triad in a heart business. So
I mean, oh my Lord, this is like, yeah, you definitely need to play this for your CEO. Okay, so
1,000%, and I need him to do it. I told him this is so interesting. I got to get you to do this, and he was up for it. So I need to. By the way, what do you tell people when they want to know, when they're desperate to know somebody's Enneagram, but they haven't done it, or they haven't, what do you tell people? Do you tell them, do the quiz, guessing how they might guess? What do you do? Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways. One is, I'm going to be a little self-promotional here, but it's because I actually believe in these things. I have an assessment on my website called the IEQ-9. That's one way. You want to make sure, though, these quizzes that you see in like Vogue magazine and all that stuff, it's trash. Yeah. It is just trash, because the Enneagram, the way you construct a test is so important. You've got to work with, I work, with a research psychologist. It's like, you got to make sure this test is accurate, right?
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure that the report that you get back is accurate. Right.
Yeah.
So that's really important. The second way is you can read a book. Like I have a book called The Road Back to You. It's a fun narrative, somewhat snarky. You'd appreciate it. It's got a little New York in it. And
I bought this book and I started reading it. You have like a New York flavor to it, and you're really gifted with words, and it just translates beautifully.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad. And then once you become a really gifted student of the Enneagram, and this takes a little bit of time, right?
Yeah.
You can begin to spot certain things and go, that feels two to me. Like just being with you, right? I bet you if I walked into your apartment, I might be able to guess your type.
Oh, can you guess on someone's face? Wow.
Much of the time. Yeah. Or I could pick up on the way you dress, the way that you express yourself with your hands, with your face, how much affect is there, the clothes that you choose, like I've been doing this so long, and I've interviewed so many people, and I've been embedded in this world long enough that now I also do it with a lot of humility, knowing that I can't see their interior world or what's motivating them necessarily on the outside.
Right.
But a lot of times, I don't know what the percent is, but better than the average bear. You can start to really, really pick it up. But
that's wild.
Yeah, it is wild. So incredibly interesting and helpful, and I get excited to see it. Okay, why don't we just talk about different types in relationships?
Yeah.
You want to do that? Why don't you ask me? All right. Okay. So imagine.
Can I ask you?
You ask me questions about relationships, and we'll try and this.
Okay. Let me ask you this first. Let me ask you this question. Here's something that would be really helpful for our millions of daters. Is there an Enneagram that you should, especially if you're blank, you should be putting that on your profile?
Mean like, okay, I'm looking for a 5 or a 7 or something.
Or maybe because this one is because I'm a relatively new student, but maybe because this Enneagram is more introverted, a little less likely to put themselves out there. It's actually even more important, or can be even more powerful or transformative if they put that their whatever their Enneagram is on their OkCupid profile.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you say Enneagram 5, what I would do, right, is, and by the way, I don't have the meter running on this, but this is how I make a living. If you, I would say, okay, so we should, let's put this in, but maybe we should offline. I'm not sure. Okay, so, I would say find out their type.
Yep.
Have on offer a single page description of the 9 different types.
Yep.
If they want it, right? That's an opt-in sort of a thing. And so that they have some baseline, maybe they have just a cursory knowledge of the Enneagram, but they want to, and then they might say, you know what? I think 7s are really interesting. I'd love to meet a 7.
That would be very cool if you had a description for each type. So somebody can go in and oh, they're a 7. What does that mean? And you click on it and like all of a sudden, boom, you can see a short description of a 7.
Right.
That's so interesting. I mean, what would really be wild is if we were able to actually build a matching component into that. That would be.
And then what you would need is, you could actually create a whole realm for Enneagram fans, actually create Enneagram fans, right? Who are like, oh, this is a great shorthand for me learning about different people. It saves me 3 dates.
Yeah.
Right. Or, oh, wow, an 8, I tend to be someone who is conflict averse. It'd be fascinating to be with somebody who's okay with conflict.
Yeah.
Right. That would be fascinating.
Fascinating.
I mean, there's a million ways.
To do it. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Can I ask you this?
Yeah.
Who's the most romantic?
Oh.
You're looking at them.
Valentine's Day is next week. Who's the most romantic? Is
the 4s. What did you say before?
I would say that all 9 numbers are just romantic in their own way.
Right.
In their own unique way.
In their own unique way.
So you'd have to actually say to me, and the love languages are different. Yeah. Right.
Right.
For a 2, I'd say for a 2, if I wanted to express love to a 2, I would surprise you with a meal out.
Yeah.
I would surprise you with flowers. I would, figure out what is it I would give you, because you tend to want to focus on what other people need. And at the same time, you're really not good at knowing what you need.
Yeah.
I would say, okay, I'm giving you a day at a spa or whatever it is that you love, right? Because you tend not to take care of yourself as much as you do other people. Right.
So interesting.
So on the other hand, an 8, or let me say, a 5 might say, one of the ways that you could give them love is by giving them more space. It could be talking to them about their interests more than the feeling space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Wait, okay. Now this is a selfish one. How do my husband's an 8. An 8-wing 7. How do I better show him? What does he need?
So here's how 8s move through the world. 8s have a need to assert strength and power over others and the environment in order to mask vulnerability and weakness, right? And they are, you run on 120 volts, 8s run on 240 volts, right? An 8 with a 7 loves adventure. They are going to love, they're going to have a spontaneous edge to them. They love very body-based things. So, let's go to the climbing gym. You know what I mean? Or what, or that, they,
and unfolding like a series of surprises. That would be especially that 7 wing, it's like that could be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, it's like, and then it keeps kind of unfolding for them.
8s just, 8s, part of the love language of 8s is directness. Got it. Just tell them the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Put it right out there. And they want you to bring the juice. They want you to meet them toe to toe, nose to nose. They love it when because to an 8, what feels like conflict to you feels like connection to them. And what feels like intimidation to you or another number feels like intimacy to them.
Wow.
The other day you said this phrase, the 8s have this push against energy.
Yeah, oppositional energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do not have that. The 8 has this sort of tendency to naturally push against people, places, things. They have this, like the best phrase is oppositional energy. They love to go up against authority. They love to push back. Sometimes when you're with an 8 psychologically, you feel like they're just, kind of poking you in the shoulder a little bit,
Yes. Yes. And in fact, I always say to him, and it was so helpful as I've fallen, into this reading more about him that I'm always like, oh, you're always feisty with someone. Who are you feisty with today? Always.
Yes.
There's always someone. And, my husband's Australian. And so I chalked it up to that until I, started understanding and reading more about this.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that is
that is my beautiful, my beautiful 9 daughter calling from San Francisco on FaceTime. And so it didn't actually mute it for some reason. Oh, well. Never mind. We edit that. Okay. We will edit that all out.
That's interesting because you said that Australians it's kind of a 7 country, right? Haven't you said that before?
Yeah, they have a lot of 7, but I think they also have a lot of 8.
Yeah. Well, I just meant like maybe, this 8-7 wing, he has a lot of 7 in him maybe.
My time when I've spent time in Australia, right? Yeah. I always feel like there's a bar fight about to break out.
And you would be correct.
Right. There's a lot of 8 energy.
Yeah.
A lot of 8 energy.
But I think, one of the things I am emotional. You said I feel things through my heart, and he is the 8, like I can handle anything. I am never stressed. Like I said, I'm always saying to him, are you stressed about anything? Is there anything actually, like it just comes at him and so, this would also be one of the powerful things of figuring out how to support singles out there with Enneagrams is that's a really good compliment to me, who's so anxious and kind of anticipating 4 or 5 steps ahead. And that's probably, maybe some of like the 3 in me too, the wing 3 part, with him, he's like, babe, we got this.
Yes.
We got this.
Yeah.
And that's, very calming to me.
Yes. So. And remember, he reads the world through his gut. So sometimes you with an 8, like 8 sometimes will act before they think or feel, right? Which gets them into trouble.
Yes. You are so brilliant and wise in this world. Now, let me ask you another question. Sorry, I'm now running this interview. Tell me, what do you tend to see executives? Is there a tendency for executives to be 8s?
Great question. First of all, it's partly industry dependent.
Ooh,
right?
Okay.
So I would imagine, well, we see a lot of 3s, 7s, and 8s in upper management because they're very assertive numbers. However, in, let's say, the computer world, Bill Gates is a 5. We don't often associate 5s with, because they tend to be more introverted, more heady.
Right. Those brilliant engineers, maybe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. A stereotype would be brilliant coders. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But be great pioneers. They're great pioneers and would be in Silicon Valley, let's say. If you, but 3, 7s, and 8s are very assertive, right? Mm. 1s, you can see in, positions of I've seen plenty of 1s in positions of leadership. 2s, lots of times 2s make great powers behind the throne.
Yes. I read about that. I don't know if that was in your book or where, but yes. Or they tend to opt towards professions like nonprofits or medicine or,
Yeah. Or I'll tell you what they're great at. I see this all the time is they're great human resource leaders because they just read people. And as I mentioned earlier, they know how to recruit talent like nobody's business because they put such a good forward face on the organization they're representing. That said, 2s can be very ambitious, especially with a 3 wing, because you pick up all the energy of the achiever, the performer, right? That's that 3 wing. And, so they can, they find their little niche in the world and they're fantastic at it. Now, that isn't to say that other numbers don't have those competencies. It is to say, though, that you actually get calories from doing it. Other numbers might have to burn calories to do the same job. Burn calories
from doing it. Yeah, where it really gets me going.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
This is, I'm excited to do it with the marketing team at OkCupid because when you understand more about yourself and your tendencies and your blind spots, I found myself like actually physically like exhaling like actually physically feeling this release and, reading that like, okay, twos tend to be networkers. Okay, that is partly how I've gotten to where I am. Tech is a male dominated industry. It is the hottest, fastest growing, industry in the world. Love it or hate it. And what am I doing here? And I found it very empowering to understand, well, these are some of the things. And also I just feel great because you're like, oh, you've got a big heart. You're like, and anyway, it's very powerful. Let me ask you this. Are you noticing that corporate America is paying more and more attention to this practice?
Holy smokes, yes. I mean, it's just a giant portion of my work, right? Because here's the reasons why. Number one, and my audience may be a little tired of hearing me say this, but this is based on a Cornell University Business School study. The key predictor of success in business, and I would argue in relationships, is self-awareness. If you lack self-knowledge and self-awareness, you are going to greatly handicap your advantage in the workplace and in the love space, right? And so, the more you know yourself, the more you understand your blind spots, the more you understand your gifts, right? And the ability, as you relate to another human being, to monitor and regulate the way that you are acting, thinking, and feeling in the moment from, is like a huge advantage, right? It's a huge advantage. If you're just running on autopilot without any sense of self-awareness, you tend to bang guardrail to guardrail through people's lives. That's just how it goes.
That is so true. It is so true. And the lack of self-awareness is still pretty prevalent. And what happens when you have that knowledge is pretty powerful.
So in the corporate space, I'd actually worked at a corporation, Fortune 500 corporation in New York City. I've worked at a bunch of hedge funds. I've worked at, different in California and Silicon Valley, different sort of places. Oftentimes I get brought in and I'm working with a team, and they're like, the team is having problems with misunderstanding, conflict resolution, maximizing effectiveness, et cetera, et cetera. And I come in and I say, look, today I'm going to teach you how to appreciate difference, how to leverage the gifts of different types. I'm going to give you information that will not only help you thrive in the workplace, but you're going to bring this home and it's going to be a game changer for you in your marriage, in your parenting, at every level.
Yep.
And in your friendships and, your own personal spirituality, whatever that looks like, et cetera. And we can cut this part out because I've told the story before, but I worked at this major corporation in New York City. I came in and I gave an 8-hour workshop, and I came back 6 months later, and I'm walking down the hallway of this company, and I cannot figure out where the head of HR, it was a follow-up visit. I can't figure out where the head of HR is, because there's the numbers on everybody's door, the suites don't make any sense. And she came out and she laughed and she said, oh, those aren't the suite numbers, those are their Enneagram numbers.
No way. Wow. That's amazing.
And because they had learned all the different types, now when a 3 walked into a 5, they didn't, it's not like you would say, oh, they will always act like this. They will always be like, everyone's, got their uniqueness. Yeah. However, they knew that the 5 doesn't like a lot of intrusion. They feel depleted by too much relationship time. Yeah. And and so it just is like, it gives you such a shortcut into an appreciation, and they start to laugh with each other's quirks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they could also say to each other, Jim, I'm really feeling as a 3 that you're thinking a little bit more about your own success than the success of the team.
Yeah.
Right? Or to a 2, I might say, this happens a lot. Gee, Melissa, I know that relationships mean the world to you, but we have these reports that have to get done. And I know that means being in your office by yourself outside of the realm of relationship. And I also then can tell, so you got to focus on that too. Or I might say to a boss of a 2, listen, you're going to see Melissa going down the hallway, stopping at desks, asking people how they are. She's the one who knows whose every birthday it is, that she knows who's getting divorced before everybody else knows. She knows when someone's pregnant. She knows, you know what I mean? And I'll say, don't stop that. Like, she does have to balance it with other forms of work, but that's like her superpower. And that brings a lot of the shimmer of care and concern and positivity into the space. Don't tamp that down because it's not like your number. Like, appreciate the difference, leverage it, let her bring her whole person to work, and it will really help you in the end. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go.
I have to hear more about this.
Okay,
I
we can
think I
do
have
that.
your email, but I need to hear more.
I'll give you my cell number before we get off, and that'll be
wonderful.
easy.
That'd be
All
great.
right, so let's jump back in, Anthony.
Yep.
All right. So Melissa, I just want to get some tips that you might have for people who are, I think COVID now, Lord willing, is starting to maybe ease up a little bit. But tell me, like, just tips for dating, whether it's in COVID or just in general. Can you give me 3 tips for people about dating?
100%. And yeah, it's been a tough, are we junior year of COVID? I don't know, but what year is it? It's been a tough road if you've been single. And here's the first thing I'll tell you. It is a wonderful time to date. And the reason why is people are very motivated. And we work with a brilliant social psychologist who helps us understand why are people doing what they're doing, what's going to happen next. And in world or life-changing moments, pandemic of the early 1900s, World War I, World War II, 9/11, there's a marriage boom after, because people are so scared to go through with something like that again alone. They have been maybe alone or feeling isolated for a period of time. Life has been upended. It has made them overcome all those things that were preventing them, whether it was, I want to be a little this, I'm a little too scared, whatever it is, they are overcoming those things and getting out there. So my first advice is just get out there. Put the time in. And so that's tip number 2, get yourself out there. And maybe that's going to church. Maybe that's, signing up for something where other single people are going to be. I think it should be getting on a dating app. OkCupid is free, but get on anything. Find out what dating app is kind of popular in your area, because not all dating apps are popular in all towns or cities. But the second tip is put the time in. I talk to people all the time, and women especially are guilty of this. They trained for a marathon. They worked so hard for the career that they have. They're putting time and energy into their friends. They're putting time and energy into their family. They learn to speak German. And then you say, but I really want to meet someone. I really, really want to meet. Okay, tell me, what does that look like right now? What do you mean? Okay, how are you putting yourself into situations where you're going to meet other single people? And it's crickets. Or, well, I'm on a dating app, it's not really working. Okay, how much time are you actually really putting into that? So those answers, 9 times out of 10, when you really push them to say, okay, did you show up at that marathon having put in 2 minutes a week? So we, this is a longer conversation. I think women are a little bit a victim of this like Disney fairy tale. He's just going to show up and push me out of a moving cab and I'll be swept away. And that's just not reality, especially as women are working and we're not in the social scenarios that used to get people together. And most of that's really great because, we're working, we have careers, we're doing all these things. So put the time and energy in. My third tip is like 2 quick insider hacks. And that is, if you are on an app, get on the app on Sundays. Log in on Sundays, swipe on Sundays, send messages on Sundays. Sundays are the most popular day on OkCupid and most every other app. It's like meeting someone at a bar when they're actually there, or the coffee shop, or the church, whatever your thing is. So Sundays, if you're going to do nothing else, do it on Sundays, but also update that profile or again, put that time in. When you update your profile, and that could just be adding shows I binged during COVID. and list like 10 things. Or albums that changed my life, or authors that changed my life, or trips I can't wait to go on when travel's normal again. Your two things happen. The algorithm lights up like you're new, and kind of like cell phone carriers, when you're new, you will get lots of attention. And the second thing is you're signaling that you care, that it's fresh, that it's interesting. And so people respond to that. You're giving them something to talk to you about.
Wow.
That's great.
If I wasn't married. Oh my gosh. Well, Melissa, tell people, obviously they can just go find OkCupid online and download the app. And I'm sure it has all kinds of other features that are helpful to people. And I've loved this conversation. I'm like fired up.
Mm-hmm.
I am fired up. I have learned so much. It's just so interesting. And by the way, if you go on OkCupid and you see someone else, go on OkCupid, put your Enneagram, message me on Twitter. I'll give you a year of OkCupid Premium, which is our $50 a month version. I think that I'm going to come back on because people are going to meet through this. They're going to be encouraged to share it.
Cool. I think there's something really really fun. I think.
Ian, will you marry a couple that meets as a result of this podcast? I'll pay for the honeymoon, and you'll marry them.
If I get to go to St. Bart's with them. It has to be.
It needs to be in a tropical, beautiful location.
Yeah,
Bora
it definitely
Bora,
has to be a destination wedding. Destination wedding for sure. Exactly.
I can't thank you enough for having me. I have learned so much. This has been so lovely, and thanks for what you put out there to help folks. And today, I think we help single people.
Yeah, I absolutely do. And that's what the show is about. We're a helping show. So Enneagram typology listeners, remember these words. May you have love, may you have joy, may you have peace, may you have healing, and may you have rest. Until the next time we're together.